China versus Taiwan. Is this conflict evolving rapidly? Certainly looks like it. After the visit between Kevin McCarthy and the president of Taiwan, China announced that they are ready to fight, which is not good news for the world. This story came over from the AP. Then we'll look at their launch plans. The Taiwan ROC government responded. The U.S. military is apparently launching their own training plans. And then we'll see what some of the reaction looks like around the world. But what is China saying? Well, we're ready to fight is the story from AP News, posted by Hu Zhangwu 2 hours ago. China military ready to fight after drills near Taiwan. They declared on Monday that China is ready to fight after completing 3 days of large-scale combat exercises around Taiwan, simulated sealing off the island in response to the Taiwanese president's trip to the United States. They called them combat readiness patrols, named Joint Sword, were meant to be a warning to the self-governing Taiwan, which China claims as its own. China, a foreign official said, the theater's troops are ready to fight at all times and can fight at any time to resolutely smash any form of Taiwan independence and foreign interference attempts. Resolutely smash. Now, these exercises were similar to ones conducted by China last August when it was launching missiles when Pelosi went over there. Military experts say the exercises serve as intimidation and an opportunity for practice by blocking sea and air traffic. Chinese actions follow a delicate mission to shore up diplomatic ties. John Kirby, who we'll hear from soon, says a lot of this was a major overreaction. Live fire exercises, focusing a lot on air strength. Taiwan reported more than 200 flights by Chinese warplanes in the past 3 days. Chinese state broadcaster said the exercises were simulating the joint sealing off, as well as waves of simulated strikes. We'll see a graphic that they posted up. The PLA said that its aircraft carrier was taking part in exercises encircling Taiwan for the first time. It showed video of a fighter jet taking off the deck of a ship, posted on their social media chat called Weibo. Between 6 a.m. Sunday, 6 a.m. Monday, a total of 70 planes were detected and half crossed the median of the Taiwan Strait, an unofficial boundary once accepted by both sides. Numbers are pretty serious. Among the planes, 8 J-16 fighter jets, 4 J-1 fighters, 8 Su-30 fighters, and other reconnaissance planes. Taiwan also tracked J-15 fighter jets, which are paired along with an aircraft carrier. By Monday, Taiwan's defense ministry reported another 91 flights by bombers as well as multiple fighter jets, early warning aircraft, and military transport planes. Now, obviously a troubling situation if you're on the island. I would imagine they're probably relatively used to this stuff, but it feels like things are continually escalating. China's military harassment of Taiwan has intensified in recent years, with planes or ships sent towards the island on a near daily basis, numbers rising in reaction to increased hostilities. Meanwhile, the United States is also preparing their own activities. Now, this was a graphic of the actual launch plan, and the Sun got this. They tell us that Chinese state TV shows a chilling Taiwan invasion blitz video as the forces practice the sealing off of the island. Look at this. Chinese TV has shown this propaganda video, and they're showing their fighter planes and their missiles being readied to be launched into Taiwan. And you can see what this looks like in the video itself. This is what the Chinese are doing. That's like a video game or something. They're even playing video game music. Okay, so that's just not great. Isn't Taiwan supposed to be a part of China, according to them? So they're going to blow the crap out of their own people? Sheesh. With heavy metal music on top of it. Okay. So that's what the Chinese are doing. Now, the Taiwan, the Republic of China, which is the ROC. So you have the PRC, which is China. Then you have the ROC, which is the Republic of China, which is Taiwan. And so they are responding. They made their own video. They said, what? How dare you? National Defense, Republic of China, Taiwan. All right, better video than those commie Chinese PRC commies. And they are, making nice videos over there. Pretty cool. Does the United States do anything like that anymore? Or are they too busy talking about white rage and wearing their multiple face masks? I don't know. So the U.S. military is responding. They have sent over some individuals to do some Navy training, so-called. Bloomberg is reporting this. Says the U.S. Navy is now challenging Beijing in South China Sea amid various Taiwan drills. We've got warships now conducting freedom of navigation operations. Near the Spratlys. Move comes as the U.S. is set to hold military drills with the Philippines. A U.S. Navy destroyer, this story updated April 9th, passed through waters claimed by Beijing in the South China Sea in a show of force that comes as the nation's military holds drills around Taiwan. Things are getting hot. It says wait a minute. This is ridiculous. I'm a Bloomberg subscriber here. Okay, we'll fix that after the show. Says the USS Milius guided missile destroyer conducted freedom of navigation operations in Monday. The ship sailed within 12 nautical miles or 22 kilometers of Mischief Reef, where China has its largest outpost and is closest to the Philippine territory. These operations demonstrate, they say, that the United States will fly, sail, and operate wherever international law allows, regardless of the location. The move risks stoking tensions with China, which has denounced similar operations as an infringement of its sovereignty and security. But this week, the U.S. is also planning to start annual military exercises with the Philippines, which are set to be larger than previous years as ties warm between the longtime allies. On April 10th, they tell us that this is happening right now, apparently. The U.S. 7th Fleet says that on April 10th, the Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, the USS Milius, asserted navigational rights and freedoms in the South China Sea near the Spratly Islands, consistent with international law. Okay, so this is what's going on now. Things are getting a little hot over there. Nice ship floating around over there. Very nice crew on board. And hopefully they are sailing safely, representing the United States military in a show of force in the South China Sea, as China is threatening to nuke, metaphorically, Taiwan. The China military tracked and monitored the warship during its passage, which was done without the permission of the government of Beijing. The country's Southern Theater Command said in a statement. It said Beijing asserts the rights to more than 80% of the South China Sea, whose other claimants are the Philippines, Taiwan, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Brunei. The U.S. refuses to recognize China's claims and regularly conducts what it calls freedom of navigation operations to challenge them. China, meanwhile, this week has held multiple exercises and other ship and incursions near the Taiwan island, 70 aircraft, and we've seen some of those other numbers. So pretty serious activity taking place over there. John Kirby was asked a lot about this, saying, hey, it also looks like maybe the lines have been killed between the United States and China. Is that the case?
We know the president can pick up the phone anytime and call President Xi. We've been told that this call is coming for months. Why hasn't he just picked up the phone and called President Xi to say, knock it off?
The president looks forward to having another conversation with President Xi. And we'll do that at the appropriate time, and we'll certainly keep you apprised of that. It's important that those lines of communication stay open. The tensions are certainly high right now. We like to see this relationship get onto a better footing. And when it's appropriate for the two leaders to talk, then that'll happen. I want to stress, that said, that we are and have been able to maintain lines of communication between our two countries, even throughout all these tensions. And in fact, we're still working to get Secretary Blinken back on a plane over to Beijing, as he was planning to do a couple of months ago. And we're in talks with the PRC about potential visits of Secretary Yellen and Secretary Raimondo, at their invitation, by the way, to talk about economic issues.
And while it's not popular, would the president ever speak directly to President Tsai? I mean, would there be a conversation
with
there,
Taiwan?
perhaps? What is his take on this meeting between House Speaker McCarthy and President Tsai?
Not uncommon for presidents of Taiwan to transit the United States, as President Tsai did. It's also not uncommon for Taiwan officials, certainly at the president level, to meet with members of Congress, as President Tsai did. It's very typical. There's, again, no reason for any overreaction here.
Thank you.
No reason for any overreaction, just business as usual. And another question came in about whether there was confidence still in Taiwan. And John Kirby gets a little bit irritated here. He said, yeah, look, nothing has changed. Okay, overreaction from China. We have everything is status quo. Literally nothing has changed. We still adhere to the one China policy. Here is John.
How does the U.S. see the latest Chinese military exercises there? And is the U.S. confident that Taiwan and help from the U.S. can continue to deter China from a military, solution as they would see it? Because what they've been, their saber rattling, we call it, was a lot more than sabers, and it's more than rattling at this point.
Yeah, so we're monitoring the exercises as closely as I think you might imagine. They appear to be a reaction to something that didn't need to be reacted to. In my previous answer, this is not uncommon for presidents of Taiwan, and this one in particular, to transit the United States. So there was no reason to react in any way, militarily or otherwise. They also reacted rhetorically. But we're very comfortable and confident that we have in place in the region sufficient resources and capabilities to protect our national security interests in the Indo-Pacific. I would add, more specifically to your second question, there's no reason for tensions across the Taiwan Strait to devolve into any kind of conflict. Nothing's changed about our one China policy. Nothing's changed about the fact that we don't support Taiwan independence. And nothing's changed about the fact that we don't want to see the status quo changed unilaterally, and certainly not by force.
Just a quick one, if I might, on Macron's visit to China.
Let's pause on that one. We'll come back to this because I wanted to share this story with you before we got over there. There was an interesting article that made a video about earlier today, but it fits in perfectly here. The president of France had given an interview with Politico. One of the weirdest things, apparently, they can censor themselves over there after the fact. It's a weird, strange thing. I guess this is a French thing. Maybe this is a European thing. I'm not familiar with how this works. But you can go in, you can have a conversation with somebody. You can say whatever the hell you want. In other words, you can have an interview. You can say, can I have an interview with you? Say, sure. Have a full conversation. Say whatever you want. And then before the interview gets published, somebody who wants to protect you and actually shield you from being found out, I guess, can censor what the conversation was and delete portions of the conversation that never see the light of day. It's the weirdest thing. So you see the headline that says that Europe must resist pressure. America's followers says we can't be America's followers. And Macron had this great meeting that between him and President Xi, and they had an interview about it. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom of this story, all the way down, we'll keep going, just scrolling. Had a great interview. They're talking about what's going on. All the way at the bottom, look at this. You see this italicized paragraph? They write, as is common in France and many other European countries, I guess, known as the Élysée Palace, they insisted on checking and proofreading all the president's quotes as a condition of granting the interview. Now, this violates political standards, but they said, okay, well, we'll speak because we want to talk to him directly. Politico insisted it cannot deceive its readers, wouldn't publish anything the president did not say. The quotes in this article were all actually said by him, but some parts of this were deleted. When he was speaking even more frankly about Taiwan, they were cut out. Those portions were cut out of the story. So it's way worse, I would imagine, than what he said. They actually left in the toned down version of this. But the French people apparently are done with the United States. He says if the tensions between the two superpowers heat up between between China and the United States, we won't have time nor the resources to finance our strategic autonomy. And we'll become vassals of the United States. That's interesting because we sort of feel like we're bogged down in a European conflict. He suggested that Europe reduce its dependence on the extraterritoriality of the US dollar, which is exactly what Moscow and Beijing want to do. Is Macron going to get called a Putin puppet? Is he going to get called a lot of the same names that many others on the other side have been called for questioning what's going on here? Is he? Now, this is because he's in actual alignment with stated goals of Moscow and Beijing. I don't know. Macron argued that Europe had increased its dependency on the United States. And Macron and von der Leyen took similar lines with Taiwan, saying China is very upset with the United States. And that Europe is more willing to accept a world where the Chinese are a regional hegemon. So very interesting that that type of language is coming out of the French. We're wondering, and people like Marco Rubio are wondering, whether it's still worthwhile to be pumping billions of dollars over there to engage in a European conflict. If they're not interested in working with the United States any longer, they'd rather hang out with China. So this question got brought up today in response to this. John Kirby gets asked.
Just a quick one, if I might, on Macron's visit to China. How did you react to his comments about wanting to create a third superpower and so on? Do you wish him luck? Is it just rhetoric, or is it kind of annoying to the U.S. administration?
I'll let the LEC speak to President Macron's comments. We are, again, comfortable and confident in the terrific bilateral relationship we have with France and the relationship that the president has with President Macron and the fact that we're working together on so many different issues. And the French are stepping up in the Indo-Pacific. I mean, they're conducting naval operations even as you and I are speaking right now in the Indo-Pacific, all in keeping with a concerted effort by all of us, this vast alliance, or network of alliances and partnerships that we have, to continue to make sure that we're standing up for stability, security, prosperity, and a free and open Indo-Pacific.
Thank you, Kareem, and thank you, Kirby.
So the French, apparently, we shouldn't listen to what they're saying. It's still good. He's saying it's not so good. We would like to have a decoupling of our economies and go hang out with the Chinese, but our government is saying not that big of a deal. We still feel like it's strong. Obviously, that was not a good answer. So this other journalist asks a second time, hey, John, let me try again on the Macron comment. Can you maybe answer it this time?
I just have to try again on President Macron. Do you have a response to him saying that essentially Europe doesn't want to be seen as following the United States' lead on China?
Again, I'll let President Macron speak to his comments. We're very comfortable and confident in the strong alliance and the strong friendship that exists between our two countries, and the fact that we have been working together on the continent, and elsewhere around the world with France, whether it's, I mentioned the Indo-Pacific, certainly on Ukraine, in Africa, in the Sahel, going after terrorist threats there. I mean, there's a lot of terrific bilateral cooperation just alone between the United States and France. We're focused on that. We're focused on making sure that together we're meeting the national security requirements of both our peoples.
It feels like there is a domino effect going on right now. Don't you feel it? A lot of the countries from elsewhere around the world are engaging in new relationships, new dates. They're finding new people to go out with. And the United States is sitting here like, this is weird. Man, we were the cool kid, but nobody wants to hang out with us now anymore. They're all hanging out with the Chinese. What gives? I don't know, but it doesn't look really good because now they're talking about using U.S. troops to go in there and help Taiwan. Two individuals from both houses of Congress are talking a lot about this. This individual is McCall. He is on the Foreign Intelligence Committee. And here's what he said over on Twitter. AZ Geopolitics was the person who clipped this on Twitter. talking from Taiwan specifically. This was a Fox News clip. And you can see McCall is saying U.S. troops in Taiwan are on the table.
So Speaker McCarthy and yourself have said that multiple times now, that we need to arm Taiwan now before there's any sort of invasion. What about U.S. troops?
I think, then you're talking about an authorized use of military force that would come out of my committee, or a declaration of war, which we haven't utilized since World War II.
Would you support that?
I think if China, Communist China, invades Taiwan, I think that is certainly, if the American people support this, the Congress will follow.
If the American people support this, have they ever asked us if we support any of these things, or do they just go ahead and kind of do it? And then we have people like Mitch McConnell who come out and tell us that we have no choice but to essentially agree that this is the highest priority thing in the whole world.
Much a possibility when it comes to Taiwan. In my exclusive interview with Chairman McCall, he tells me that sending American men and women to war is the last resort. Conflict is the last resort. Deterrence is key here, but authorizing war powers is not out of the question. So you're saying that the option to authorize war powers is on the table?
If Communist China invaded Taiwan, it would certainly be on the table, and something that would be discussed by Congress and with the American people. Are they prepared to do this? Is Taiwan worth it? I can argue for a lot of reasons why it is.
Here we go, inching closer and closer to World War III. And he's not alone. We know the very war-happy senator known as Lindsey Graham is also on this team, says that he's open to sending U.S. forces to Taiwan over from the Hill. They tell us that he said on Sunday that he is open to sending U.S. troops to Taiwan to defend the island, saying strategic ambiguity just isn't working. He was asked if he would support authorizing force if tensions rise. Graham responded that Congress needs to ask itself whether the U.S. should have a defense agreement with Taiwan. Graham said, so the question for Congress should be, do we have a defense agreement with the island of Taiwan? We don't. Should we have one? But yes, I'd be very much open to using U.S. forces to defend Taiwan because it's our national security interest to do so. Same guy screaming about Ukraine. Graham's comments come on the heels of top GOP leaders meeting with the president of Taiwan, calling for greater peace and stability. Graham said that he would support sending aid to Taiwan because it is a democracy. Added that they would increase training and give the F-16s they need. Said, I believe in a one China policy, but I would be willing to fight for Taiwan because Taiwan is a democracy, and we've stood with them for decades. House Foreign Affairs Committee Michael McCall said the same thing, and so Congress is gearing up for this, and I'm sure there will be more to come on that. Now, the final question of the day from John Kirby was about China and their plan, and this gave me deja vu like I never felt. Remember when we were about a year ago, about 14 months ago, when they were talking about the Russians not invading Ukraine? It's a lot of this kind of hemming and hawing from the Biden administration.
Taiwan right now, do you discern any movements by China that would indicate an imminent plan to launch military actions against Taiwan?
President Xi has said he wants his military ready by 2027.
Plenty of time.
But saying you want to be ready by a certain time doesn't mean that you have an intent. President Xi would have to speak to that specific intent himself. We're not seeing any overt indications that kind of movement militarily is either imminent or inevitable.
I'm pretty sure he said that same thing back in February of last year.